there. This is Dr. Barbara Young, and welcome to the Transformation for Success Television Network. And this is the Total Woman Show, and boy, do we have a show for you today. I'm so excited. I have my co-host, Miss Althea Ledford, who is an editor for E, the magazine for the female executive today.
Yes.
Did I say it right, Althea?
Yes.
And I have our guest today, Dr. Donetta Pickett. I'm so happy to have you on the show today.
I'm so happy to be
Well,
here.
this woman is, I'm telling you, she is fabulous. So call your friends, tell them they got to listen to the show today.
Yes.
Because we have this dynamic woman who is in a profession that not many women are in. She has for 25 years been in a profession of labor relations and working with unions, and she's been working with construction workers and actually negotiating agreements, which is something which is so interesting. So we're going to talk about how you got into this profession. And so the theme, if I were to have a theme today, it is women power brokers, specializing in professions that are specialized. So thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Well,
Thank you so
we're
much.
excited.
I'm
We're excited.
excited.
Well, 25 years, you don't look like, 20, but you've been 25 years in anything. but more importantly, she is an ordained minister.
Wow.
And she is the president CEO of Living Wells Ministry. Did I get it right?
Living Waters.
Living Waters Ministries. And so we're going to talk about that in another time.
Okay.
But today we want to focus on how women are making advances, and particularly yourself, in professions that are usually male-dominated professions. So tell me, how did you get started in this? Tell us a little bit about your professional journey.
Well, it's a very unique journey in how I got to be a consultant in project management in the construction industry. Actually, my father, who is 85 years old, he started out in construction, and he started out doing commercial and residential projects. But my desire did not come from him doing his work. As I went on to college, and I always had a sense of being a business person. And so I went on to school.
So you weren't playing with dolls?
A little bit.
But you had a sense of it. That's
But you had a
awesome.
sense
Had a
of
sense
it,
of
yeah.
it. And so as I went on to college and to study business management, after I graduated from college, I got a job with an engineering firm, and I was working with an attorney. I did get a degree as a paralegal. So I was working with this attorney who would sign agreements. This was for a project called the Alameda Corridor
I remember
project.
that. Yes,
And so
yes.
all of the cities that the corridor ran alongside, we had to sign those agreements for right of way,
Right.
so those residents could be taken out of the way for that rail transit project. And so after I completed that project, there was an opening for a job training and development project. And so they said, well, we can't let her go. Let's see if she was willing to be the director for the job training development.
Wow.
And so at
Wow.
that moment, I began to observe other people that were working on the projects that were consultant. And I'm like, how can I become a consultant?
Right.
And so I just took my skills and turned it into a business.
Wow.
And so from there, from
Wow.
working that job training development program, I learned those skills and how to be able to complement the owners of a project, to be able to learn how to navigate the workers into the system. And so from that point on, I just developed my business, went and got a license, and just did my thing.
Was it difficult starting your own business? Because, today we have a growing number of women
Right.
who are launching their own businesses. So was it difficult? What did you have to do to actually get your business started? Because a lot of people ask me that question.
It was not difficult for me. Basic information, go get your business license, find out what classification of your services that you're going to provide, be able to network. In my case, the agencies, the contractors were familiar with me because I was an employee. I was an employee for 3 years in construction, and then I turned my skills into a business. So they knew my skills and what I could offer to the table. But in terms of anyone who wants to get in the business, it's not a difficult process. Get certification. You know, if you're a minority owned business, if you're a woman owned business, get certified through a public agency. Get your license. I would recommend getting some training and knowledge in the field of construction, because we know that knowledge is power.
Right, exactly.
Knowledge is key. And so once you get the language of construction, you're pretty much in the door. Much in the door.
What basic skills do you think you needed that you got by working as a paralegal? Did that kind of prep you? What did it prep you to do?
The legal skills prep me for contracts in terms of looking at agreements and seeing what requirements that the owner would require of a builder. And so, for example, many of the contracts calls for a percentage that minorities would have participation on a contract. And so my role would be to work with the contractor to make sure they meet those goals so that there is inclusion of women and minorities on projects.
Right.
What kind of pushbacks did you have? Because you can't tell me that this is all
Just smooth. Right,
and easy.
right.
So I know you had pushbacks, and more importantly, how did you overcome them? So what were some of the pushbacks?
Well, actually, the pushback didn't come from, I would say, upper management or from contractors. Actually, they came from my peers. Because, like, how dare you become a consultant, you know? And I'm an avid learner. I love to learn. And so you can't fault me for that. If that's what, you know, you do what you want to do, but this is my passion, this is my dream. And so I would probably say the pushback would be, as a minority, a young female, you know, because in the industry you may find individuals that are maybe a little older than me, but it wasn't an issue for me. As long as I'm doing my job and the client is happy, then everything's good. So, but the pushback, I would probably say the age. I would probably say the female. But I overlook those things. I let my qualities and my skills show forth and accomplish, you know, the job at hand.
Isn't that hard to do? I mean, to really overlook when somebody is really, you know, maligning you and trying to stop you and thwart your progress. Isn't that hard? Where did you find that inner strength to overlook it?
Well, if I'm honest with you, I was very stressed at one point because there were some individuals that were trying to manipulate my work and sabotage my work. And there was one director of a project that didn't care for me, but I had tunnel vision. I knew what my role was. I knew what I was called to do. I knew what my assignment was. So I kind of, you know, the Lord gives you discernment. He gives you insight to see what the enemy is doing. So I had my eye on the enemy, but yet I was still focused on what I needed to accomplish. So that helped me.
Point.
Yes, it is.
Keep your eye on
we keep on moving.
the opposition. And no, be focused. You know, this is so, the reason why I say this, and I know Althea can agree, it's so important because today there's so many things that come at a lot of the young millennials, a lot of the young women, and they're trying to grapple with how do I make these adjustments? And you said something very important, is that you have to be strong in the Lord. You have to know who you are.
Absolutely.
You have to know where you're going, and you have to really keep your eye on the prize.
Absolutely.
I mean, you know, I think this applies, and I may start preaching.
Okay, now, go ahead.
No, because it is so important, and particularly in the profession that you were in, are still in. So how did you segue? I mean, to where you just had it going on, and you have all this confidence, and then what are you doing and giving back? Because that's important too, because I think a part of our role is to give back, reach back.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, in this role, I've operated in 3 different capacity as a consultant. I've either worked for the agency, the public works agency, or I've worked for the general contractor, that's the builder, or I've worked for a subcontractor. So in either capacity, I am representing them in any stage. And so what I try to do is become neutral with the contractor and the the owner, to let the owner know I'm representing you to the fullest to minimize any risks that may occur on a project, but yet with the contractor and the unions, I'm letting them know these are the requirements of the project, and if there's any issues that come up, we want to make sure that we mitigate those and we discuss those so that we don't have any grievances that would disrupt the schedule of a project.
So, go ahead. So I was going to say, so your knowledge base created a trust because you knew what you were talking about. You could go in and interpret between the two. You know, that allowed them to say, okay, she knows what she's talking about. Let me let her go ahead. That's what. Is that what you agree? Okay.
Yeah. And so, in terms of giving back. There's a goal for local worker hire on these projects. It could range from 30% to 40%. And so my job is to ensure that the contractors are employing those local workers, to be able to draw them from the union halls, either to draw them from any community-based organizations, stop centers. So we're making sure that we're employing those local residents so that they can thrive in their families and in their communities.
It's interesting. I have some real provocative questions for you because because one of the things is, what do you see given our current climate and environment in this country? Where do you see the construction industry and that interface between the owner and the construction workers, and what is your take on that?
Well, the construction industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry.
How can we get into some of
that? It's a unique world of its own. You know, you go from design, you go from construction, and you go to closeout. And so I am seeing that there is an improvement in retention of minority and women on the project. Good. And I think that's because the policies have changed with some of the government agencies. They've implemented, there's requirements to include minorities on the project. So I do see that there is some progression in terms of participating from minorities and women. I think that women need to, if they want to be more involved in the construction industry, they need to seek out, like you said earlier, invest in yourself. I think they need to sow into themselves in an apprenticeship program, pre-apprenticeship program where they can learn the tools, the trades to help establish them and to get involved in some social networking with other women in construction, and that will help them build, you know,
now, do you belong to an SEI, an organization that?
Yes, there are quite a few.
Okay, because I think that's important. One of the things that I've often thought of is women like yourself and others to go visit some of the high schools or have you been asked to visit some high schools to talk about what you do and what do they need to find in this profession? What's the path they need to take? Are you guys doing some of that?
Absolutely, yes. Part of some of the projects, we have what we call outreach, and we have a career for the high school students because we want to capture them when they come out of high school before they go into college. Although the college now has more courses in construction, but we want to capture them when they are coming out of high school to let them know what is the expectation. This is the career path that you can take, and so we're doing that as an outreach effort to educate the young people.
I'm kind of glad, that you're doing that because it's like you sort of got into this really actually by default. Not by a construction plan. Directing you. You had favor. So, and I think it's so great to actually to learn all of this about you, and we've got more to learn. Now, the thing that I'm intrigued with too is how you've been able to navigate this, being that you're a minister, but we're going to save that for the second show. I got to get more about it. But what would you say has been your greatest accomplishment thus far?
Yes,
I would say my greatest accomplishment has been serving the client and serving the community. Anytime we can reach a goal on a project or a contract, that's success for me. To be able to have a family to say, I contributed to that project, or to be able to say, to do a testimonial with that family that, you know, their life has changed. So that's
you know what,
helped
I
me.
had a thought, I had a thought, a hidden figure here. You know, exactly. You know, there's so many hidden figures.
Yes.
You know, women who, I mean, because I really thank Dr. Anita Wilson,
Yes.
Polite Wilson, for referring
Dear
you
friend,
to me.
yes.
And she's such a good friend. We had her on the show not too long ago to share what she does. But it's just, there are many women, and of course, Althea, I almost gave you the doctorate. Althea Ledford, working with a number of women who are in your magazine.
Oh, wow. Wow.
That are, now, have you found anybody yet that's in the construction industry that's featured in your magazine, or
we've had
construction management?
We've had astronaut, we've had engineers.
Awesome.
But they never, at the time, like you, when they started, it was not, there wasn't like, come on, you know, you tell guys all the time, come on and be in construction, because they're always recruiting, but they don't recruit the girls. And girls love it as much. It's really fun. So that's what they had to overcome that. So that's what was interesting to ask you. Was there a point when you realized, okay, I can make a living out of this? Where did you feel at a point where you said, okay, I've made it? Was there a point in your career?
Well, the difference between my role in construction is I'm on the professional service side of the industry, where there's policies and programs to help disadvantaged workers to get on a project. But the actual females in construction, that is a difficult path, but there are a lot of women that are trailblazing that, and they're navigating themselves through that industry, and so they're doing quite well.
I met only one female construction worker, and I wasn't sure if you were with me when I went to this meeting, and they had high-profile women who, and this was a construction, she owned a construction company, and I was so impressed. I mean, she was a tiny woman too. I mean, petite. And I said, oh my gosh, you know, but size has nothing to do with the profession. But she had been groomed by her dad, more or less. You know, fixing the car, learning how to fix a car. You know, so and really being exposed and had a mind for it. So the thing is, I think for women in these kinds of fields is garnering the respect of the co-workers and the men who are in the field, that they recognize you for your talent, skills, knowledge, and abilities. So that's wonderful. Now the question I have too, I always ask, how do you manage work-life balance?
How do I manage work-life balance? Because
you are married and have a family. No. Okay. Well, but still,
not yet.
But still, that there comes that work-life balance. It's like, what do you do for self? How do you, fuel self?
Well, I like to prioritize, my business, my personal, and so that comes with, prayer. Once you quiet yourself and sit and talk with God, you can be able to balance things and say, I'm going to give this much attention to that and this much attention to that. And you never know what life throws at you, but you just try and stay focused and not do so much at one time so that you're overwhelmed in all that you're doing.
Okay.
So,
because one of the things that I know Althea and I have talked about is that the whole notion of self-care. And what I tend to feel is that a lot of women professionals today are just this run. I mean, to really be successful, and they forget this whole notion of self-care, relaxing, and what do you do? So that, was my question. And I'm beginning to even ask a lot of women, what do you do for self-care?
I'm a traveler. I love to travel and go to tropical locations. So I love water. So, I'm either meditating or just, looking at the water or going for a walk. So I like to pamper myself. So I'm at spas and all of those things. So I do take time for me. that's one thing that I do.
Did you learn that right away? Or did you have to learn it after the fact? Because initially you probably were doing, how many hours were you working when you first started?
Lots of hours.
I know.
Lots of hours, yeah. So once I got the hang of things, then, I learned to take time for myself, because you need to replenish and fill yourself back up so that you can give your full.
I'm going to ask a silly question.
What?
Were you a good... I love it. Were you a good student in high school?
I kind of think I was.
Yeah. You did your homework.
Yes,
You did your homework?
I did my homework.
So how would you describe yourself?
I would describe myself as an observer, as a determined individual who's focused, who's driven to help others win and to be their best self. I'm sort of a quiet person, but I do like to be amongst individuals. And so I think I'm full of joy. Yeah, I'm full of joy. I live a peaceful life. Don't do drama, so but I know how to handle it.
Yeah. But it's been interesting because for the last few days, and as Althea knows, we've been talking with women on a 7-day transformational journey.
Okay.
And talking with them and really asking, do you know your purpose? Do you know who you are? Where are you going? Because these are questions that I think many people are seeking. Everybody wants to feel worthwhile.
Absolutely.
Everybody wants love. And so maybe we get it in different ways and different means.
Right.
But what do you think today, as it relates to your industry and millennials? I'm bringing that up because I think we're really moving into more and more millennials and Gen Zers.
Yes, absolutely.
So have you any ideas or things or suggestions for my millennial audiences who are out there?
Absolutely. You know what? I would say coaching, one-on-one coaching. I didn't particularly get that growing up, even though I had an idea of what I wanted to do. And then I got sidetracked with some things. But I would say get a mentor, someone that's going to pull something out of you and push you to your next dimension in what you want to do. So coaching is very key for the millennial.
And that doesn't just necessarily, when I say to my viewers out there, that doesn't just apply just to millennials.
Right.
It applies to all of us.
Absolutely.
And I call with a lot of mature women to get your personal board of directors. Do you have a personal board of directors?
I do.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
And not many people even know that concept.
Yes.
Of the personal board of directors, and particularly as we move along and we're in varying professions, whether we're a coach, whether we're in construction management, or whether we're a teacher. We need to have that feedback. Sister girl, we need feedback.
Yes.
But we need to know that a person loves you unconditionally, but loves you enough to tell you the truth.
Absolutely.
And and they're confidential, so that you can share. So I figured no more than 3 or 4.
Right, that's
Absolutely.
plenty.
Absolutely.
That's plenty. I mean, that you can find. So if I had anything to say with a lot of the millennials is that and the Gen Zers is that we not get into this competition mode.
Yes.
That's it.
Because it is so difficult trying to compare yourself to somebody else. Because I believe that every last one of us has a purpose and a plan.
Yes. Yes.
God designed us, sent us here with a perfect plan.
Absolutely.
And I have my own box.
Yes.
It's like He gave me my own sandbox.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
And to learn who I am. And then I don't need to jump in your sandbox.
That's exactly.
I don't know why that analogy just came to me.
Yeah, that's a good one though.
My own sandbox.
Sand in your hair.
And so it's
saying,
so
this is true.
exciting to me. I just get excited. I guess most people don't. Dr. Why are you always so excited? I'm excited about life. I'm excited about living. And every day is a gift. So I just can't thank you enough for what you do and encourage you to continue to do what you do.
Thank you.
Because you're definitely making a difference.
Praise God.
You are.
Thank you.
And
Praise
so
God.
we're going to have you back.
Yes.
Because we got a lot more questions to ask.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
I am truly fascinated because one of the things is that women of faith, oftentimes we're in various professions, and sometimes people hide their faith, or they're a little reticent to be open about their faith, whatever your belief may be. That they're a little afraid. And I think in today's times, we need women of faith. We need to have faith.
Absolutely.
We really need. There's so many hurts, so many things in this world. And basically, this show, The Total Woman, is to give a message to you out there that we have a number of women all over the world. We're going through challenges, all of us. None of us are sacrosanct that we don't have challenges. Some of us just are quiet about them. We don't share about them. We don't talk about them. But I want you to know that we are here for you.
Yes.
And you are certainly welcome to write me at info@transformationforsuccess.com. We love to have your comments about the show. We'd love to have, if you think there's somebody that needs to be on the show and share their transformational journey. And we have Miss Althea, who has a magazine that's global, it's out there. You can tell your story in digital print.
Right, exactly.
Wow.
Yes.
So we have all kinds of mediums of communication today in this digital world.
Yes.
But too, brings up a question of how the industry that you're in relates into digital. How are we moving in the digital era as it relates to labor relations and what you're doing?
The construction industry has a electronic media type of model for building, which they call BIM, Building Information Models. And so that's kind of technology in terms of how a contractor can see that a building is being developed. But in terms of promoting opportunities for work, there's different databases that have virtual announcements, email notifications that they're able to get to invite them to pre-job meetings, to invite them to networking events. So technology is improving in that area.
That's good to
Wow,
know.
that's interesting.
Because I know that more and more we're moving into the digital era. And how does that, impact? Where do you see yourself going?
I see myself going as far as God will take me.
Yeah, but you gotta help him.
But I gotta help him. Next step.
You gotta put your hand in his hand.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right.
Absolutely.
What are
Next
your
step.
next
Next
steps?
Are you working on next steps, or do you have a vision for next steps?
Yeah, actually,
that you can share on this show.
Well, I've been working in the construction industry for 25 years now. And so I do feel a shift that the Lord is taking me into ministry a little bit more. And so I'm going to be doing some things that's going to focus with young entrepreneurs, women in ministry, and single mothers. So I want to impact those three audiences. So I'm going to be doing that.
We gotta have a back.
Awesome. Yeah, that's exciting.
And so we can talk about the next journey.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for you because again, I was looking at this woman specializes in regular relations. She works in construction industry. We're doing all of these agreements and getting things settled. And then she's a minister too. So I want to know in our next show, so I want you to stay tuned. All of you stay listening, stay viewing part 2, because we're going to have her back next week.
Yes.
So thank you for listening and viewing today, because not only you're hearing, but you're seeing. And isn't it wonderful to have a guest like this, Dr. Donetta Pickett, on the show today. And Miss Althea Ledford, thank you so much for being my co-host today.
Thank you.
I want to thank you guys for listening. And don't forget, write me at info@transformationforsuccess.com. We'll be on next week. So please look at the show and write us and let us know how you feel about the show. I can take it. I take all the roses I can. So goodbye. Have a good week. This is Resurrection Weekend. Tomorrow is Resurrection Sunday. So have a great day wherever you are. Thank you so much.